I am a lamb, about to get slaughtered. By who, you may ask? Well, let's begin the story to my exact murder 5 seconds earlier. By these 4 gods. These gods are rulers of what they call the Old Faith, the primary belief of this world. And my species, yes, sheep, was the key to the prophecy to murder these 4 gods and end their legacy. So they decided to hunt every last sheep until me. Well, that was an anticlimactic story. But I lied! I didn't die! Introducing the 5th god, a god that believed he was his chosen one, the one who waits. This god was banished for not believing the Old Faith and is now choosing me, a tiny little lamb, to start a cult in his name and soon free him. So what do I say to this? Absolutely, O chosen one! Which made me fight through the tutorial phases where I met Ratau, my mentor who guided me early on, and there it is, the start of my peaceful journey in this land, the ruins that Ratau mentions. But all of that begins here, on day 1. Ratau mentions that these ruins were once his home. I indoctrinate my first cult follower and share my humble beginnings with them, chopping trees, mining stone, and building a place to cook for my hungry follower. But Ratau reminds us of the ultimate goal, to free the one who waits, and to do this, I must build a shrine. But of course, it costs me money, so I venture to the darkness where 5 doors are presented to me. Each door is its own god. The first we face is in the land of Darkwood, Leshy, the bad hair day guy. I was given my trusty sword, 3 hearts, and a dream. I progressed through the rooms filled with mobs until I was greeted by Clonic, the future teller of the story. Well, he doesn't really tell us about the future, but he gives us cards that aid in battle. I picked up his card and moved on, stumbling upon the first god himself, Leshy. Clonic hands me another card, and soon I was ready to fight Leshy's first disciple, Amdusius, a crawling bush-like creature that soon turned into a helpless being by my blade. But this was just the first of 3 disciples of Leshy, and I was happy to rescue him and indoctrinate into my cult. And that was my first crusade done, allowing me to obtain even more resources for my greedy lamb fingers. When I returned, I welcomed our new brother in cult, built my shrine with the coins I obtained, and built a temple where we can commence sermons and rituals to increase my godly power. And this power, of course, comes from my followers. Ratau introduces us to the Fate Meter, and warns us to never let this go to 0. Sermons can increase our faith, however, so I'm not worried. This lack of worry causes me to go on another crusade, beat up the mobs, pick the cards, and I stumble upon Ratau again, where he shows me a crown ability that lets me use his curses through fervor dropped from enemies, and this was extremely powerful. I then meet a distressed person in the woods, so I of course let them into our cult. But a bird showed up named Harrow, who handed me these commandment stone fragments that once pieced together allows me to create a new doctrine for all my followers to follow. And fast forward, face the next disciple of Leshy, Valifar, a red bush who shoots flaming balls. But the fight was easy as he/she phases my godly lamb stature. That's 2 of 3 done, and soon the 3rd was coming. So I returned back to my home after being praised by the one who waits, with a newcomer. I gave a follower a necklace that helps them produce more devotion while giving another necklace that doubles their lifespan. They of course respond with more happiness and loyalty. Remember those commandment stones I was talking about? Well, now we can put them to good use by announcing to all my followers that a new ritual could be practiced. And with the blessings of my followers from my sermon, I was able to unlock new curses in my crusades. As I went outside to clean my land, and saw that my followers had pooped, cleaning this gave me XP towards my broom, apparently. I placed some beds as some people were complaining about it, and then I went into the rooms again to fight Leshy's 3rd disciple. But I met the 3 gods in the room, and they all teased me. Until Barbados, yup, there's Barbados, and he met his match when he saw me. I destroyed him in this unfair matchup. That's all of Leshy's disciples done. But what about Leshy himself? He was waiting for me, patiently, on the next crusade. So I collected another commandment stone, and the one who waits gave me the ability to read minds. I came home with more devotion to claim, and farming was my next item on the to-do list. and a follower acknowledged our growing community and gave me the option to name our cult. The Coop, of course. Subscribe. I then declared another doctrine, after which Fatao invites me to play a game of Knucklebones. But I kid you not, this game might be the goofiest game I've ever played. Nevertheless, I still won and got a tarot card and went home. I got Cult 2 and began working on a farm. I placed farm plots around the barn for my followers to grow and tend to crops. I then preached a sermon and claimed the might of the devout, which allowed me to begin crusades with higher starting levels on my weapons. I did some work around the area and soon began another crusade to defeat Leshy, as he waits for me at his temple. I meet Monch along the way, and he gave a bunch of loyalty to a follower I chose. I also meet the fisherman, who introduced me to another section of the map, Pilgrim's Passage, but after running around, there I was, facing Leshy. The fight got quite heated, but I was able to secure the win, giving us another Heart of a Heretic. The first god was dealt with, but 3 more gods stood, waiting each with 3 disciples, and Hecate from Anura was waiting his turn. When I returned, I claimed the missionary building, although I never get to use it that much, but also the summoning circle for demons. With the Heart of a Heretic that I got from Leshy, I was able to receive the ability to resurrect myself at any point of a crusade with the sacrifice of a follower. I indoctrinated a follower and took a visit to Pilgrim's Passage. The fisherman instructs us with fish to catch, but this quest takes me a while in the story to finish. I entered a lighthouse where the keeper begged for help to reignite the furnace of the lighthouse. When I did, they pledged their loyalty to the Coop and allowed pilgrims to visit the cove. I carried on by buying a tarot card from the pilgrims and going home to claim stone mines with more devotion. I fished again trying to get the creatures the fisherman had asked me for, but had no luck, and at night met a mysterious creature that asked for a fish. He told me he'd meet me again, and I still wait to this day. At night, I visited the lighthouse and they asked for my assistance. They were asking for crystals, but I literally had no idea where to get them. When I got back to base camp, however, I claimed more devotion points and spent it on the lumberyard, and I was ready to enter the next door leading to Anura, and the second god, Hecate, the 4-eyed frog guy. The rooms and dungeons had a red tint, and mushrooms were just everywhere, so I of course grabbed as many as I could. I meet a statue where I can sacrifice my hearts for extra buffs during my run, and stumble upon Gushin, the first disciple of Hecate. The fight raged on until he killed me, and I had to sacrifice a follower of mine and defeat the fuzzy green frog. After the fight, the one who waits gave me the ability to practice a ritual where I could absorb my followers' power by sacrificing them. I went home to preach a sermon and increase the amount of fervor I hold to cast more curses. I preached a new doctrine that allowed my followers to enjoy sacrifices, which would help me in abusing the new sacrifice ritual I was given. And I did sacrifice a follower, which allowed me to claim more curses to appear on more crusades. I worked more on my farms and spent a point to shelters to provide a better home for my followers. I then placed a lumberyard for them to chop wood for me while on my crusades and fished. But of course, I still had no luck. I claimed another devotion point and unlocked refineries to turn regular pieces of wood and stone and gold to planks and cut stone and gold bars, and I summoned the demon by turning a follower into one and returned to visit Darkwood, but was met by Harrow, the burb, telling me that the creatures have become stronger. At the last dungeon room, I broke Leshy's statue and the portal appeared. I ventured in, only to meet the mess of hair Leshy yet again. After his defeat, the one who waits gave me a chest where I can sell anything I had. My broom also upgraded itself, and I built more beds for my followers and also a stone mine. I had a sermon with my followers and leveled up to unlock an upgrade giving me another half heart. I was ready to traverse Anura once again. The 3 gods wanted me to surrender to their cause, but I said hell nah, and carried on until I saw a living mushroom who introduced me to another area of the map, Spore Grotto. Of course, I killed those mushrooms and then meet Kemek, a master of relics, which helped me fight monsters by consuming their souls and using the power of the relic I have. Until I was met with Hecate's second disciple, Eligos. This flying frog nuisance killed me, and I went back home defeated. I did some farm work and base building and gave my followers the industrious trait, and also unlocked the healing bay. I visited Spore Grotto and met Zozo, who asked for menticide mushrooms, and he gave me a holy talisman piece in return. I got the other 2 pieces by giving fish to the fisherman, and honestly forgot where I got the 3rd one, and had enough to get a new fleece for myself. I decided to choose the Fleece of Fates. I preached a sermon the next day, and unlocked even more curses, and I went back to Darkwood to challenge Leshy's bishop, Witness Agoress. This 3-eyed ball who killed me, but after reviving I was able to make easy work of him, who dropped an Eye of a Witness, and I went home to declare a feast and unlocked Demonic Summoning Circle 2. The next day I farmed a bit, and even took a picture of myself with the beautiful scenery, and learned about different fertilizers. I then fished and caught myself a new relic, and a lobster to give to the fisherman, who awarded me another talisman fragment. Then I had a sermon and unlocked Weapon Mastery, where I could use aggressive attacks with my sword and return for my fervor. But I went back to Anura to have a rematch with Elagos after slaughtering the residents and rescuing another follower. And this time, it was his defeat, and I went home to unlock the janitor station to have my followers clean up after them and upgraded my broom even more. I went back to Sozo to give him more of his addicting mushrooms, and he gave me the ability to brainwash my followers through a ritual and also gave me another talisman fragment. I also declare a new doctrine to unlock the ability to ascend my followers to a higher plane, or in other words, kill them humanely, and gain loyalty from my followers. I also create a scarecrow to stop the neighboring crows from stealing my seeds. I then fished for the rest of the night, till the next day to try and get the octopus. And the next day, I eventually get it, and the fisherman gives me another talisman fragment. I continue to buy tarot cards from the pilgrims and meet Helob, who sells followers, and Rakshasa, who sells seeds. And I went back into Anura to get more mushrooms and face Hecate's 3rd disciple. I stumble upon the follower trafficker Helob, and sells me a follower for 50% off, and meet the seed vendor Rakshasa, who I harassed to the point he begged to be spared alive to continue business with me, where I left him alone. I was met with karma and died. But with this anger, I brainwashed all my followers and got enough power to unlock Might of the Devout too. After which, I created the janitor station with planks and gold, and returned to Sozo to tell him about the brainwash, and he awarded me with another talisman fragment, completing the holy talisman. I decided to choose the Fleece of the Diseased Heart, but stuck to the Fleece of Fates because I was just used to it. I then bought another follower and challenged Anura again to rescue another follower, slaughter the mobs, and challenge Hecate's last disciple, Zepar, who I defeated after a close fight on the night of the 23rd day. I went home to more divine inspiration and unlocked Missionary 2, then indoctrinated these followers, declared a new doctrine, and preached a sermon. After which, I worked on the farm and learned that a dissenter was joining my cult, and I had to quickly get rid of them. So, I did the most logical thing and sacrificed him to the Underworld Tentacle, where I got enough power to unlock the 2nd level of Righteous Fervor to cast more curses. At night, I claimed more devotion and unlocked the Offering Statue, sold goods, and cured some followers. On the 25th day, I started it off with a feasting ritual and bought another follower, then decided to traverse Anura to defeat Hecate, but not before buying another follower and rescuing one. After what seemed like hours in this dungeon, I finally stumbled in front of Hecate's frog eyes, where he turned into this gigantic bulbous frog, but was no match to my superior skill and intellect, and that was the 2nd god down, awarding us with another Heart of a Heretic. This news warms the cold heart of the one who waits, and I return home to announce a new doctrine, amid my followers Grass Eaters, and I use the Heart of a Heretic to unlock an extra deceased heart that when I get damaged, all enemies receives damage as well, at the beginning of the crusade. I also unlocked more curses, and the first death of the follower was upon us, and at night, I harvested the body. The next day, I visit the Lonely Shack. Why? Well, during my crusade, I came across Flinky, the snake, and I was supposed to challenge him in the confusing game of Knucklebones. The first game, I was defeated, but the second, I absolutely destroyed Flinky 60-34, and he gives me a tarot card. I came home to a sermon and built another lumberyard and stone mine, and decided to unlock the 3rd door, the entrance to Anchor Deep, an underwater-themed dungeon where the god who lies here is Calamar, I guess a tent-looking calamari guy. I then meet his first disciple, Salios, and instantly killed him with my exploding demon. And I went home to another death of a follower, and at night I bought another tarot card from the pilgrims. I also visited the lighthouse to try and give the creeper crystals, but could not figure out why no one wanted it. The next day, I indoctrinated a follower and then unlocked the outhouse with more divine inspiration, and placed lanterns around the base, and also a mushroom sculpture to finish Sozo's quest and get another talisman fragment. But another follower had died, and I decided to harvest his meat at night. The next day, I preached a sermon to unlock main weapons to appear in our crusade, and I get instructed to brainwash everyone with those mushrooms. So of course, I did, and started another crusade at Anchor Deep. I meet Clunko and Bob, who challenges me to a game of knucklebones again, and meet a fellow who rejected my cult proposal. I do eventually meet Haborim, Calamar's second disciple, and I do beat him first try, and I arrive at camp the next day. I healed followers of their sickness and did some work at the farm. Then I introduced a new doctrine which allowed me to bribe followers for their loyalty. I returned to the lighthouse to finally give the crystals they wanted, and I visited the lonely shack to challenge Clunko and Bob, and become the winner through sheer luck, but we take it and get a tarot card. I returned home unlocking Cult 3, and I decided to go back to Anura to finish a quest of a follower. And I also fight the Bishop of Anura, Witness Bathan, who I defeat first try and claim another Eye of a Witness. I arrive home with almost everyone sick, and I clean up the area and prepare food for my followers. I then introduce another doctrine which made my followers enjoy decorations. I also indoctrinate a new follower, but they immediately showed signs of dissent, and I had to get rid of them quickly. Then I unlocked Shared Shelter to save some space for my base. To start this new day, I decided to sacrifice one of the elders and unlocked Might of Devout 3. After which, I went back into the dungeons of Anchor Deep to challenge Calamar's third disciple. I meet Plimbo, who shows me another area of the map. Then, I bought another disciple from her fellow spider, and I meet Beelzebub, who I killed so easily, and returned home to visit Plimbo's home, the Smuggler's Sanctuary. I bought all the tarot cards Plimbo sold, and tickled the giant fish to get another relic. I went home to feast and introduce a new doctrine and also unlocked Tabernacle 2 with divine inspiration. At night, I expanded the lumberyards and stone mines. And the next day, I unlocked vampiric weapons after preaching a sermon. I was taking my time before Calamar's fight, but I knew I had to do it eventually. So I turned my followers into demons and headed to Anchor Deep to challenge the Calamari tent, Calamar. The fight was a challenging one, and I eventually die, but returned with vengeance after sacrificing a follower, and I was ready to take Calamar's head. Wait, never mind. I forgot about that part of the story. Yes, I died, and returned home to prepare to challenge him once and for all. I worked on some sermons and base building and unlocked compost. I then leveled up my broom again, built a shared shelter for my followers, and performed a harvest ritual to grow the crops instantly. At night, I harvested all these crops. And the next day, I unlocked the last door, Silk Cradle, home of Shimura, the bad headache spider, as I needed silk for some crafting recipes. I meet the caterpillar Berith, and I buy a robe design from them for gold bars. At the end of the dungeon, I managed to beat Folklore, Shamara's first disciple, and I returned home to sacrifice a dissenter of the cult, and unlocked necromantic weapons. After that, I announced a new doctrine, cleaned the base, and the next day I fixed a meal for all my followers. Then I returned to Anchor Deep to beat Calamar once and for all, and on the night of day 44 I managed to fail again. I arrived home at day 45 with everyone mad at me, so I threw a feast, cleaned the base, unlocked body pits, and buried dead bodies to try and calm down the crowd. And it worked. But I wasn't calm. From the loss to Calamar? So, I worked on decorating my base, and I unlocked Cult 4 and passed another doctrine. I built roads, moved around buildings, placed a massive stone mine in lumbered area, and in the end, it looked pretty good. I went back to Darkwood for a follower quest, and the crusade was a success, giving a follower more loyalty, and buying another follower for a cult, and defeating 10 roams in total. When I returned, I ascended a follower and introduced a new doctrine, I gave them all food and built a crypt to bury our dead followers. After that, I decorated our base even more. Continuing this to day 50, and I made my base beautiful, and introduced another doctrine and resurrected a long dead follower. Now I lost this footage for the next 4 days, but I'm pretty sure it was just base building. I'm sorry. After which, I went back to Darkwood for another quest and returned home unlocking the tailor, and I consecrated more resources. On day 55, I unlocked Might of the Devout 5 and then introduced another doctrine, and this time I knew I was going to defeat Calamar. And after a day in the dungeon, I arrived at the hated boss, and finally defeated him. I got the third heart of a heretic, and the one who waits was eager for his freedom. I unlocked the kitchen to have my followers cook meals for themselves, and at night I went to Silk Cradle to fight the second disciple of Shimura. And when I went in, I found a gun for a weapon, which I've never seen before. I mean, it's a gun! I stumbled upon an entrance to a cave of gold, and another area of the map, Midas Cave, appeared. And on day 58, of course, I beat the Shimura disciple. But I was met with a strange creature. Question mark, question mark, question mark. Could he be him? I went home and I used the Heart of a Heretic I got from Calamar to have the ability to go back to my cult at any moment and also unlock another doctrine. Then the crown came alive and turned into a worm who asked me to collect sin for various purposes. This unlocked new buildings to unlock, and the mating tent caught my eye. The following day I used sin to make our temple look better, and it had a feast for everyone. After which I went to Midas Cave and bought some decoration items, but went back home as they were so expensive. The rest of the day was just working at the base and maxing Might of the Devout, and decided to make a mating tent and hatchery. At night, I caught spiders and one dropped a skull, so I buried this skull and got a follower named Weber, who had the Don't Starve trait, which basically allows him to, well, not starve. I went back to Silk Cradle as I was nearing the end, but was caught by Shremmy, who challenges me to a game of, oh lord help me, Knucklebones. And after a day in the dungeons, I was able to fight the scorpion Horus, who I made quick work of, which means next room is going to be Shimura's, and the one who waits would wait no further for his death. Because I've realized something from living as a tiny lamb cult leader, that I enjoy being this leader, almost ascending as a god himself, and maybe I want the status. But with that aside, Shremmy was waiting for me at the lonely shack of Ratau to have a death match in a game of Knucklebones. And I lost, and lost, and lost. Oh my gosh, I lost like 20 of them, but with some luck, I locked in and secured the win of another tarot card. After a day of base work, I decided to finally beat the 4th god Shimura. The dungeon lasted 2 days and the fight was close, but I eventually beat the spider god with the help of a sacrificed follower, which got me to another heart of the heretic. And the one who waits could not wait any longer. Following days, I worked at the base, gathering more followers and essentially preparing myself for the fight. On the night of day 72, I challenged the god and sadly lost. This happened several times over, and I got sick and tired of this fight. I was slowly losing hope in the battle, but on day 74, I locked in. I defeated the one who waits, and I became God. But wait, there's more. The 3 question mark dude came back, and I named him, well, him. And for the rest of the 20 plus days, I worked on the base, collected more forgotten doctrine stone, got every single decoration, follower forms, most of the tarot cards and relics, saw purgatory mode, fed some followers, and made my base the best cult ever. And on the 100th day, I sat back, admiring the work that I have put in, just taking a breather, watching the flowers, then the sunset, and when dusk hit night, I slept. And now I wait as the one who waits for the next A Chicken Coop upload.